When you're working with a guy like Phil Heath, we're talking about a guy that has a body that fits into a category that perhaps there's 5 other bodies in the world that would fit it. So in all the generations, there's maybe less than 10 tailors who have ever had a chance to look and work on a body like Phil's.
Olympia champion to return of the gift.
Now we come to the
Phil
payoff.
Heath.
Let's see these.
Hi, I'm Phil Heath, 7-time Mr. Olympia, and this right here is LGFG, baby.
Something I know from tailoring for Ronnie Coleman, Freddie Hall, for Brian Shaw, now Phil Heath, is when you have these massive shoulders, you actually want to cut the shoulders a little bit narrower. And not many tailors know that because they just haven't worked with a body of those proportions. I've worked with the who's who of the bodybuilding world, which is why the LGFG suits on bodybuilders, everywhere they go, they're wearing our suits and they look fantastic because we know how to do that. The first thing that a tailor is going to look at is going to be the body shape. Thankfully for us, we've also done Martin Ford, who's much more of a bodybuilder type. And as you get into the sort of ultra bodybuilders, we've done Ronnie Coleman. And he looked amazing, by the way. He just doesn't have the functionality he had like 20 years ago. Phil has that. So his body is a normal body, except add like 200 pounds of muscle. And that's where it gets a little bit difficult. Let's look at this book. This is the Michael Franzese Guide to Style and Elegance. The body that most closely matches Phil's is a trapezoid shape. So the first thing to understand is that due to the shape of Phil Heath, not all patterns will look good on his garments. So you don't really want too many chalk stripes, although chalk stripes can be interesting for a guy of Phil's cut. Generally, chalk stripes do give you more width. And so when you're a bigger guy and you're a bodybuilder and you wear chalk stripes, it just makes you that much more imposing. So it's not an ideal choice for an everyday suit. However, I did want a chalk stripe suit in Phil's collection because he is so imposing. So for Phil, I wanted something to over accentuate his image and make him look as big and powerful as we possibly could. And this was an intentional decision because, again, traditionally, if you're a guy that's got broader shoulders, you're kind of an imposing figure, you don't want to walk into a meeting room and be the CEO that's completely detached from the rest of the people, nor do you want to look like the associate who's trying to usurp the CEO by wearing something that's way more powerful than your position dictates you should present yourself as. Because Phil is on camera a lot, we don't want the moire effect, so we again stayed a little bit away from houndstooth, because if he wears a houndstooth and he goes on TV, like the song says, that's amore. We don't want that. One pattern that does not look good on guys with wide shoulders is a pinstripe. A pinstripe just doesn't look visually appealing when you're very wide and you have very thin stripes. It just looks dissonant. Florals look great on athletic men because it's kind of like saying I could kick your ass, but I'm a nice guy. And that's a good thing, right? Like, you want a cool monster as your friend, you know? So florals work great. Another thing that comes with guys in that level of muscles, they get hot very easy. And so you want to consider fabrics that are lighter. We stayed away from tweed on Phil. That would look good, but just for his lifestyle, because after you talk about the body shape and you talk about the like things with the body, the tailor's perspective of the body, you know, configurations, you got to look at the lifestyle. So there are some very difficult things about tailoring bodies of that size. Number one, the pants are like very hard to tailor because you have calves that are massive. So you need to basically cut for a bow leg, even though the guy's not bow leg. And then the other thing is when you're looking at like just the thighs. With Martin Ford, we made these pants that were amazing, but the thighs were just bulging out of the pants. And so you have to cut the seat of the pants in consideration of the thigh. So you kind of have to think about a shorter rise with a wider leg. It's just a weird configuration. And then as you go up to the jacket, you have these disproportionately wide arms on a disproportionately wide shoulder. But on the tailoring side, the shoulder is very difficult on a muscular guy because they're trying to fit the shoulder in, and then everything else cuts in so deep, you kind of get like a triangle suit. The reality is the shoulder on a very muscular guy is actually not where the shoulder ends. It's a little bit before that. So when you have these massive shoulders, you actually want to cut the shoulders a little bit narrower. And then as they put the suit on, you are going to get an arm that sort of exceeds past the shoulder line, but that's the correct way to tailor for an extremely muscular man. And not many tailors know that because they just haven't worked with a body of those proportions. A lot of these very muscular guys, because their triceps are so big, and also because their lats are so big, their arms kind of naturally sit backwards a little bit. So you have to have a bit of a backwards pitched sleeve. So we have to make sure that we're accounting for that for Phil, the backwards pitched sleeve as well. Narrower shoulder, which creates a different fork in the back. we take all of that into consideration when we're cutting those suits, which is why they look great. So we've covered the body shape and the patterns that allows us to explore and ones that abstains us from exploring. We've also covered the overall sort of bodily idiosyncrasies. Now let's talk about lifestyle. Phil's traveling a lot. So again, we want to have garments that travel extremely well, which is also important for Phil to consider that he's not a suit guy. Typically, Phil is not wearing a tuxedo or a suit. So a lot of the tailoring we did for Phil was like safari jackets and bombers. So elegant chic, you know? And the reason that we did that also for Phil is he actually loves clothing. If you look at Phil's Instagram, we're not the only tailor he follows, but he does follow us. So a lot of sort of chic, modern, upscaled casual stuff. Bombers, safari jackets, all button fronts on that. Yeah, we did do a trainer suit because, you know, Phil is a guy that's going to work out. Why not show up in a tailored workout suit? And then, of course, a couple of basic suits to cover his sort of award ceremony needs. So we have a collection of clothing that really accommodates Phil's lifestyle while simultaneously paying tribute to the brand of Phil Heath, which is the biggest guy in the room, and there's trophies to back that up.